Today, we're going to take a look at Drumflex by Drumforge, our brand new mixing plugin designed specifically to help you take your drum sample library over the top. It can be your own waves, it could be drum shots, anything that you've got. This plugin is amazing and it is designed to work from every genre, from EDM all the way to death metal and everything in between, all modern music, because so much of it has samples in it in one shape or form or another. We wanted to create a tool specifically to help you mix drum samples. So let me give you 3 reasons that Drumflex is an amazing tool and you would want to consider using it. Then I'll break it down and I'll show you it in action. So the first reason is that sometimes when you're mixing, you get the perfect sample and, you're layering and it takes a lot of work. You get that perfect sample in there and you throw it in your mix and it just doesn't quite gel with the rest of the mix. And it's really frustrating because normally you'd have to reach for 5, maybe 10 different tools, sit there, tweak, adjust, and tweak. Drumflex was designed to give you the access and the ability to do that very, very quickly and take that perfect sample and just massage it very quickly into the mix in seconds. The second reason that you'd want to use Drumflex is that it was designed to give your drums that extra 10% of big radio polish that you hear with the heavy hitting mixers on the radio. We teamed up with a 16-time Billboard #1 charting mixer to make sure that the sonics were there so you could really get that extra big polish and sheen that you hear on the radio on your samples and just bring everything over the top and make it sound like an A-list record. And the third reason is mix revisions. And imagine this, because I know you can relate to this. Sit back and think about the time where you've got your mix dialed in perfect and then the band comes back and the drummer's got that note and they're like, oh, just tweak this and this and this and this. And then what happens is the band doesn't quite realize that when you adjust some one thing in the mix and all of a sudden everything else gets thrown off, you got to adjust 5 other things and you go in circles and the whole mix gets totally trashed. The problem is when you go and you start breaking out EQ and compression and other traditional tools when you're mixing, it's very easy to throw off your mix balance. So Drumflex was designed specifically also to solve this problem where you could take a mix revision where you just needed to adjust your drum sound in a very quick and organic but effective and powerful way where the drummer will then fall back in love with it and everything will be great without ruining your balance. So to illustrate this, I actually have a mix I'm working on today. And I just got the notes this morning and the guitar player who wrote the song says, the snare and the kick drums seem to have lost some of the roundness and juiciness since the vocals have been put in. It feels a little clickier now. If there's a little juice you can throw on them, sick. A little though, just a little sweetener. So I interpret that as, okay, we got to back off a lot. And in my head, that's a lot of pain in the ass because there's a lot of things that I would adjust. But I've got Drumflex loaded on the respective channels, kick and snare, and let me show you how easy this is. So let's listen to it as is right now. All right, we're gonna add some punch to this snare, and then we're gonna make it a little darker. Give it a little squeeze. And that just thickens it up so nice and subdues it. Let's go do the same thing to the kick. I'm just gonna roll back on the tone a little bit. Let's compare it before and after now. I'm going to bypass it. You can hear how nice and organic that sounds. It still gels perfectly in the mix. I haven't ruined any of my balances, and it totally fits perfectly. Let's dive in a little deeper. Now we're gonna go through the individual features here of Drumflex. First thing that you need to understand about Drumflex is that it is 100% mode dependent. Now, what does that mean? That means this drop-down box, you have a mode, so kick, snare, toms, and bus. And by selecting that mode, the punch, attack, squeeze, and tone algorithms are all gonna change, and they're all gonna sound different, which is really, really powerful and cool. The next thing that you need to understand about this plugin is that the plugin defaults to a parallel 50% blend, okay? So you can raise it, you can lower it, whatever you want to do, but most importantly is that the plugin starts off in parallel so that it is subtle. So when you're adding punch right now in a default mode, it is going to be in parallel. Okay, so these controls are very simple. So you have punch. This is going to add punch to the drum. So let's have a listen here to this loop. Next up, we have attack. This is an EQ that's going to be enhancing the transients of your drum and really bringing it to life. You know, it's going to help it cut through the mix a little bit better. So let's hear it. All right, next up we have squeeze. The squeeze knob is a compressor designed to get your drums to kind of just pinch a little bit better through the top of the mix here. It's kind of just tighten everything up and just give it a little bit more presence. Check it out. And finally, we have the tone control. And the tone is a tilt-based EQ, which allows you to make your drum brighter or darker. So check it out. Now, like I said, this plugin's in parallel, so if you want those settings to be more extreme, you simply crank up the mix. So let me just jack everything up here so you can hear it. Give you an idea. So you can go from subtle and organic to a little bit more extreme. Now let's head over here to the input and output section. There's a couple of cool things going on here that are important to know. First off, the input is pre-compressor. So if you drive it up, it's going to affect how much signal is going into the squeeze knob. If you come over to the output section, we have an output clipper here. So if I take that off, and I can simply do that, if you hover over, you'll notice the text by right-clicking to bypass it. So let me turn up the output. So when I instantiate the clipper, what happens is it's going to bring the transient closer to the body. It's going to give you more perceived impact as a clipper would do. So it's cool because you can move the clipping point up and down. For example, say you have your volume dialed in really, really well with your drums, but you want to clip just a little bit off. What you can do is simply just adjust it. So there you have it. That's a basic walkthrough of Drumflex. You're going to love it. It is such a powerful tool for you to use on your mixes. Happy mixing.